have. And so, so we're looking for that. We have to have high levels of growth. They can't just make typical years level of growth and ever get caught up. We have to do 1.5 2 years of growth in every single year for us to get caught up. One last piece that I'm going to say before I kick it over to Marcy is that, like I mentioned, Ready Classroom is our core math program. Our first year of implementation of our core math program was the 1920 school year. Yes, we can all laugh at that. So, and there's a lot of research about rolling out a new curriculum and new programs that it takes 5 to 7 years for programs to really take root and for teachers to become super comfortable with them and know all the pieces and the parts. Curriculums are complex, and there is so much to choose from. It's a wealth of support for teachers, but it also can be overwhelming. And to be able to make really wise decisions about what to use and what not to use, and having that interrupted that first year was very unfortunate. So, and then the next year we did people really kind of just resorted back to what they had done before. And honestly, that was okay, because our focus and our goals were different, especially that 2021 school year. And it was more about a safe place for students to be and to have meals, and not to say lots of teaching didn't happen, but it was a different focus. And so last year coming back, okay, let's just, Ready Classroom, great, in our Journeys program, which is our core reading program. And it became apparent that even though there had been a lot of training, it really, we needed to treat this year as like year one. So that's what we've done. So we're pretending that this is our first year of implementation of Ready Classroom, even though it's not. And we've done a lot of very intentional work with that. So I'm gonna kick it over to Marcy.
So I'm Marcy Starber, and this is my first year as elementary instructional coach, and I'm super excited, and it's been super fun. So I know I have a time limit. District-wide, what we've done for math is in October and January, we paired up with our Ready consultant, and her name is Brienne. And we met with Brienne, and we got an amazing group of math teachers. And so Brienne trained the teachers. So we worked with her in tandem. We told her what we were seeing, what we needed support with. And we had K-5 teachers who worked with her. And then those teachers went out and ran the PD for October and January. And it was really powerful to have teachers teaching teachers, just like it's really powerful to have students teaching students. And so that was really great. And then the question is, how do we know if it's working? So we did all this PD. How do we know if it's working? I hope I see principal head nods. I'm in the classrooms every day, all throughout the week, and I've seen teachers' guides out. Teachers are using them. Teachers are going through them. Good, they're head nodding. Awesome. We have created a draft of the expectations for the teachers to follow for Ready Math. And every time we meet and come together, the teachers are using those expectations, and they're saying, oh, I think we could add this, or oh, maybe we need to talk about this and take that out. So I know that document is being used, which I love. We've taken a really close focus at the core math block, which is 60 minutes, and how that time is being used. We've talked a lot about efficiency of time, and are we doing what we need to be doing during that time? And I'm seeing that when I go out to the classrooms. We talked about assessments. As Susan said, there's a wealth of things we could be using. What are we using? Why are we using it? Are we seeing growth? And how is it correlating to OSAS? So we looked at that a lot. I love hearing about reading differentiation, because today I was with a second grade grade level, and we were talking math differentiation. So they had their Ready data up, they've given them an assessment. Now what do I do with it? And so we were diving in that together. We were looking at it and how to best support their kids individually, which is not easy, but they were taking that on. The other thing that I think that's come out of the PD is really real discussion. And so Principal Lewis and I, we have a meeting coming up on Thursday for second grade teachers that are interested. And we're carrying on the conversation about the scope and sequence of Ready Math. and where place value falls into that. And I don't think without the PD and learning all about that math program together, we'd be having that discussion. And it's a very important discussion to have. So I think the PD is working. I think it's been successful. At the classroom level support, I have 11 first and second year teachers that I'm working with. And so in August, I spent 2 hours with them going over the nuts and bolts of the program. And then, like I said, every week I'm in their classrooms, I'm doing math with them, I'm team teaching with them, I'm giving them feedback, we're reflecting together and seeing some really exciting stuff in math at the elementary level.
She kind of, I want you to know what a big deal it is that Marcy's done with all of the training. And not take it lightly. And like the piece with the second grade, that might sound like a little thing, but to have teachers who aren't trained as math teachers, they're generalists in the elementary world. And so they don't come with a really specific, rich math background. When we talked about them coming out of university, not necessarily knowing how to teach reading, they do come out knowing more about teaching reading than they do about teaching math. And so to have our PD, to have come out of a PD session, some really authentic, great questions about place value, which is core, essential to the whole rest of their math journey, right? And then Marcy and Rob taking that on as doing this little dive deeper into this really specific topic about what place value really is and how to teach it. I mean, it's those sorts of things that I think will make, I know that those are the things that we have made a lot of assumptions. We've made a lot of assumptions about teachers coming out of university knowing, and we've made a lot of assumptions that the core curriculums will just fill that in, like just follow it and they'll fill it in. But when teachers don't understand the why behind doing something, I do it, I revert to what I know and have always done because that is what feels comfortable. And so having staff feel comfortable to ask the questions in the first place, and then the ability to meet that need with the specialized training. That's just one example of many things like that over time are going to really increase teacher skill level and therefore student instruction.
So one of the things that I'm hearing is that it's really important for our teachers to be well prepared to teach, and we don't have that maybe in all of the classrooms that we need. What can we as a board do to support you in making sure that teaching of the teachers happens? I'm pretty sure that the curriculum that we've selected is probably wonderful, and if followed will improve our math and reading, but obviously we may be deficient in some of the, when we get hands-on where the rubber meets the road, we're not seeing that traction that we need. Do we need more individuals to be going in and supporting the teachers and making sure that that is being done? What can the board do?
It's being able to have.
I mean, as we're looking at, these are the goals, what do you need from us to make sure that we get the right training to the teachers so the kids get the right training in the classroom?
I would tell you that just a cursory look at some of the like-sized districts in the state of Oregon's curriculum departments. So districts that have about the same population we do with one comprehensive high school, Roseburg, McMinnville, those kind of folks. We are woefully understaffed in the curriculum department compared to districts our size. It's conversations we've had that we look at those and go, whoa, a staggering amount of support for our teachers in the classroom coming from the district office. And so we think that one of the areas we want to work on is getting more folks to be out there working with our teachers overall.
So we have lots of teacher days. I know the kids don't have school certain Fridays and correct teacher prep. I mean, I don't know what happens in the classroom or at the school level when that happens. I don't know what math teachers in the elementary schools or the middle schools do if they're getting together to talk about the curriculum. Are we doing things like, what do we do to educate the teachers?
Marcy, can you talk about what you do on a Friday PD day?
Yeah, yes. So I would love, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I would love about 15 more of the people in my position to help support teachers. The thing that keeps going in my head, I love math. I love math. But it's also reading, it's also writing. And so Rob and I were just talking today about meeting with these second grade teachers. They are grasping to understand this knowledge of place value, which is 1 hour of their day. So 1 hour of their day, we're like, here, work on place value. The other one, okay, now you got to do phonics. Okay, now we got to do, organization in a paragraph. Teaching is hard. It's very overwhelming. And so the gift that you can give to teachers is time. We can continue to use our professional days very wisely. Teachers are overwhelmed. So there's always a balance of figuring out how do you use your professional days wisely without the teachers being stressed out because they feel like there's so much input. How do we give so much input, but make it effective at the same time? So it's a balance. And if you ever figure it out, I'd love to know.
But talk about some of the stuff you've done on some of the professional development days to bringing grade levels together across the district.
Not professional development days, just
Just-
sub days in your office is what he's talking about.
Well, Mr. Superintendent thinks I like to have a lot of parties, but I don't really party. I'm really working in my office, so.
So there's a lot of food being.
It's gotta be food and fun, and we have come up with some amazing products for teachers in the district. So just a couple weeks ago, I had 3 kindergarten teachers from 3 different schools. And we built a writing curriculum that didn't exist before we got together. And so we sat down together, we built a curriculum out, and we'll be able to roll it out the end of this school year to give to kinder teachers as a place to start in writing in kindergarten. It is not easy to start writing in kindergarten. There's a range, like you can imagine. Some don't know what a pencil is, much less hold the pencil, much less have the fine motor skills. But by the end of 5th grade, we want them to write 5-paragraph papers. And so that's keeping that balance in mind again of how do we support kinder first without being overwhelming. And that's just one example of the food and fun that we had and created a super amazing resource for kinder teachers for next year.
And I have a lot of fun. I go down every so often.
You do,
And just say, show me what you're doing.
Yeah.
Teach me like I'm a middle school social studies teacher, don't have a clue about kindergarten writing.
Yeah.
And they stop their meeting, they walk me through it, and I get to see the progress they're making. It really is impressive. So,
Very good work.
That's elementary though, but we saw middle school talk about.
Yeah, the middle school story is a little similar, and I kind of want to touch on just what you brought up, like when do teachers really get together? When do they collaborate? And that's something that we've been really trying to improve our system this year around professional learning communities and PLC work, giving teachers in specific things, an agenda and specific items to look at and discuss. And actually at South, we have twice a month that our teachers get together for PLCs. And it is based on data and it's based on instructional strategies where teachers are sharing their experience, they're learning from each other, they're sharing what's working, what's not working, how can they improve. So there's a lot more collaboration happening than just nuts and bolts, like what's going on in the day, what do we have to get done? No, this is like talking about instructional practices and talking about the kids that are not making growth and what are we going to do to help them? And then what are we going to do to help the kids that are already proficient? So we're really improving how we collaborate. And I think that that's something we focused on at the beginning of the year is how do we keep our collective teacher agency moving us forward, that we're all on the same page and we're all speaking the same language and we're learning from each other. So that's actually something we're really, really working on. So through PLCs.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions about math and what's happening at math?
What do you think is causing the big gap between 8th grade and 7th grade?
Between 8th grade and 7th grade? Well, if you look, North Middle School had outstanding growth in 8th grade. And we're working on our growth in 8th grade at South Middle School. And it might be a similar flop for 7th grade of the both schools. So that is more specific of having to drill down and look at individual students and what their needs are and the device, the diverse needs for each of those grades. So it really is drilling down and looking at the why with each kid.
Is there a metric to see how comfortable the teachers are with the curriculum as they move forward? In elementary and middle schools? Because we have the data on whether or not it's working, I guess, because the kids are either doing better or not doing better. But I suspect, as I'm thinking about it, and as I look at this, like, we can't do much in the home, right? Like, the parents are either gonna work with their kids or not, and there will be a barrier that we're always gonna bump into at that level. But how the teacher performs and how they understand the curriculum and what they're doing in the classroom, that's what we can control, I think, a little bit better. For you to say it's gonna be 5 or 7 years before we know makes me a little nervous. We need to know sooner than that. And so I don't know if there's a metric, but to just get a sense of, are the teachers comfortable and are they following and are they implementing what we need? Because that would then let me know, is this working or not? These numbers have not changed in many years.
So
So we've got to do something to get this up.
few answers. One, I'm gonna say, public education is notorious for picking a shiny thing, trying it, it doesn't move the dial, and we go to the next shiny thing. And all research tells us you have got to stay the course. So I'll keep
And the
reminding
same
us
as
all.
in medicine.
but
Don't
also-
switch- Don't go to the person who says, I got the newest, latest, and
Right.
greatest. Give it a few years to make sure
Right.
it's still gonna be. I
So
understand.
it's it's our evaluation system, it's many observations, it's our ongoing PD, it's having the ability to have coaches, even though there's only one right now for elementary, boots on the ground, just hearing what's going on. It's real anecdotal, a lot of it about their comfort level, and if they're. So it's anecdotal with just what teachers say, because we are that perfect balance of large enough to have some resources, but small enough to really be in all the classrooms. I know all the teachers, I talk to the teachers, Marcy talks to teachers, they talk to their, you know what I mean? So it's that nice balance, and it's the same at middle school. And then also our iReady data. So if they're really teaching the program as it's intended, our iReady scores will increase, and then we'll see that correlation with SBAC or with OSAS.
Well, I hope that as time goes on, you will bring to the board the needs of the district that we have in this department. As much as I would love to replace the tennis courts, and my kids are both on the tennis team, I would much rather spend the money in areas where it's going to have a much longer term significance, and that is in math and reading. We need more people. And those are the things that we need to hear about and bring to the board. So I just.
One other thing that I'd like Tanya to speak to, because you talked about parents, and South did something with the iReady data with parents reports, and then how we use the intervention tool. You want to talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
there's a few other things. I know time was, maybe we need to move on, but definitely we have improved how we're sharing the data. We present, the iReady has a great report that we can present a student's annual typical growth, their stretch growth, where they're at in each of the substandards, or the strands is what they call it. And a lot of information for families, and we're sharing that with our PTSA. We're sharing that to every single parent through Parent Square, at every progress report, and at our grading time. So they're getting it quite often. And so we are definitely trying to make parents aware of where their students are at, that they know that their baseline and how they're growing. And it's also really important sharing with students, because students need to know where they're at. And that's a piece that I've seen coming back from COVID of, we've got to motivate our kids. We've got to see that, guys, you can grow. You might be here, but you can grow, and they get more buy-in. Middle schoolers, you have to get them to buy in. Like, you have to get them to want to do it, and letting them see how they're growing has been really, really good. We're doing more school-wide recognition too. We're wanting to recognize kids that are having time on task, that they are passing multiple lessons. We're gonna announce that, we're gonna recognize them for that. And we're doing the same thing for reading as well, but kids need to see the data. Teachers are having individual conferences with kids, talking to them personally, like, here's where you are, this is what you can do to keep growing, and encouraging them. And I've heard so many success stories of kids just getting excited to see that little dot move, so. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we touched briefly on the fact that, you know, Oregon has less actual teaching minutes than California and Washington by in over the 13 years, a whole year. Is there any, and then we also heard about teachers being somewhat overwhelmed with all the things they have to teach in one day. Is there any groundswell of support from certified staff at increasing a school day or a school year?
Groundswell?
Define grounds.
There are, let's say pockets. Folks that are willing to have that conversation, but I would not tell you that there's a groundswell of support for those things.
Well, I can see, you know, we're having to come up with more state money, more money for staff. But I'm just wondering if there's also buy-in for expanded minutes of actual teaching to go along with that increase.
I think in theory, yes. I think
What?
in theory, yes. I hear, one of the most common things I hear is there's not enough time, there's not enough time, there's not enough time. So in theory, they support it. Boots on the ground, what that was gonna actually mean to a, you know, for a person's day, for their week, for their calendar, for their summer, you know, then those are different conversations. Yeah.
Balance, balance, balance.
Everybody was very excited with the snow days, right up until the point where we told them they were gonna be making up the day. Right?
I have heard that in the community.
Yep. So, Do I think it's off the table? No. But I think it's work we have to continue to do. And if Gary was here, he would tell us that we need to. What's that? Oh,
Yeah. Well,
that-
it's
this
been a
is right.
theme with the board for, you know.
Well, and I think
decades.
you see us moving closer and closer to shortening the summer time. We've gone before, now Labor Day, we start before Labor Day.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to look at the calendar and how it can be tweaked, and can we add more time in winter break to extend into June and so forth. I think we presented some ideas around that. Already to the teachers union, so I think we're talking about a 12-day winter break next year and kind of extending out a little bit more. So we're gonna keep pushing those kind of things with them. But if we're actually going to have conversations about a longer, more teaching days instead of the 172, we're going to end up paying for that. And figuring out how to pay for that is what you've asked me to do. and We'll keep working on that. But I've heard the board clearly that that is a goal and the direction you want to continue to support. It's how to get more teaching days.
Well, it just has an innate logic to it.
It
that,
does.
I don't want to be forgotten.
Well, and I will say is being on the COSA group that really pushed for more funding from the state so that we could have a longer school year. We ended up finally getting the more funding, and it went to a lot of other things besides a longer school year.
Yeah.
All of them were very necessary things. Percy's position, for example, right? That's paid for out of SIA and those kind of supports. ESSER, right? You know, we have a lot of mental health supports that weren't there before SIA, which are critical. It's not like we just, you
We
know,
didn't
spent the
fritter any
money. No,
money away. right?
no, we didn't, but there's a lot of needs. And this state has been notorious in not financially supporting their schools to meet those needs. So we're still one of the lowest per student in the nation spending on students.
With a higher expectation.
with way higher expectations.
Which goes back to your very first question.
All right, is that it on math? Are there other questions? All right, share and celebrate the stories of our successes, including how we have reached our vulnerable sub-pops. And there's Kristen.
I was told we were supposed to have fun, so I was gonna start with a cheer.
Yeah.
That's because that's one of my favorite job titles, is I get to be a cheerleader for the district. So that's what I get to focus on tonight. In your packet, there is a little snapshot, and so one of the things that I want to focus on is the how we get this information out, and we do that both through direct communication and indirect communication. What's in your packet is our direct communication portal. This is Parent Square. This is our communication tool that we went to 2 years ago. You can see some of the stats within that. And what I just want to highlight is you'll see that we have a 99.2% contactability. Generally, customers with Parent Square see a really high contactability rating, meaning that they can reach someone in a student's household. And they shoot for 97 to 100%. We're at 99.2. When we first rolled out, we were at about 97, so we're continually seeing that contactability rating increase as our office staff get new emails, get new phone numbers, et cetera. So that's really good. We like seeing that. Just wanted to give you a few data points for that. So we've sent about 16 all district messages, and we're reaching approximately 11,000 staff, students, and parents. That's about an 83% open rate, and most companies see about a 26% open rate. Education does see a much higher open rate, and so we like seeing that in terms of families that are receiving information. Another fun thing about Parent Square is that our staff communicate once, but it goes to parents in the method that they prefer. So email, text, phone call, and you can see under the reach and deliverability, 90% of parents have emails, but 99% of parents have phones. And some of our old systems only communicated one way. This helps us close the gap in terms of making sure we're reaching them on whatever platform they are getting their messaging. And I think what's even more exciting is that we have families that receive communications in a language other than English. We right now have families receiving communications in Spanish, in Chinese, and in Thai. It makes up about 2% of our families, and for those district-wide communications, we're seeing about a 90 to 96% open rate for our families that are speaking a language other than English. And so to see an even higher proportion of those families getting those communications, it just shows how powerful this tool has been, that we can communicate with families in the language that they speak, even if we don't have an interpreter who speaks Thai or Chinese. This tool allows us to communicate with them. And then in terms of the indirect communication and how we can reach not only our school community, but our broader community, that's our social media, that's our news media partners, and our website, and those types of methods. And I just wanted to share some highlights since July 1. So we've had 26 positive news stories that have been generated just from press releases, social media posts, or media invitations. I realize positive can be subjective, but we generally are inviting media for something that we would say is positive. For instance, the student who saved a woman's life at Tap Rock based on the training that he received in the health sciences program at Grants Pass High School. We invited the media to come talk to him and learn about that classroom and what students are learning. We would put that in the positive category. And then in terms of our overall social media, I went back just to November since I was on maternity leave, and we've had 74 social media posts, and we've reached over 74,000 people. That's individual, unique folks, 74,000. And our engagement for the 6 months prior is up about 125%. That's folks that are liking, sharing, commenting, which just continues to grow that reach, so that even if they're not a part of, we like Grants Pass School District 7, they're seeing what's happening in our schools and the stories that we're sharing. We aim to primarily celebrate on social platforms versus direct communication we use to inform. That's kind of what those platforms are intended for. and we have a lot to celebrate. We try to share posts that align with our strategic plan, including strong academic outcomes, post-secondary plans for students, and just some examples highlighting our learning centers in the elementary and middle schools, highlighting clubs and programs that attend to our minority students, our English language learners, or those who be the first in their family to go to college, Smile Club, AVID, Spanish language interpreters, highlighting investments that the district has made, like high school course fees being covered, free school supplies, summer enrichment programming, highlighting our CTE programs and the certification students can earn, highlighting new clubs and programs, the idea that every student has a reason to come to school and a desire and an interest. And then I would also just say that we really work hard to ensure that our posts are well-rounded and representative of our student and family populations. So we try to ensure that BIPOC students, students with disabilities, students who identify as LGBTQ+ are all represented in the pictures and videos and other items that we put out. Even though they may not have that as their label, we do try to make sure that everything that we do is representative of the different populations that we serve. Any questions for me? I'm gonna go home and snuggle my 6-month-old. If I got the okay to leave.
Track students failing 2 or more classes.
At the end of Q1, we brought you data that was a snapshot at the high school level, and then at the middle school level were the finalized grades for that quarter. So what's in your packet today is Q2 at the middle school, and we have the Q1 and Q2 data there. So you can see how it's changed from over time, and then, of course, sticking with our most vulnerable subpopulations in D7, our students with disabilities, our second language learners, and our homeless population. On the next page is data related to the high school. And there isn't comparison data because, like I told you at the end of Q1, that was just snapshot data. The exception to that is Gladiola. Gladiola does do quarter grades. And so you see the semester or Q1 versus Q2 comparison there. But for GP Flex and Grants Pass High School, it's just that semester 1 grade. When we get this data out there, I try to send a lot of different stuff to the administrators. They look at individual teacher outcomes as well as kind of this bigger picture outcome. Earlier, Susan was talking about the elementary program response to intervention at the middle school and high school. Part of our RTI system is what we call the early warning system, or GP on track in D7. So course performance is one of 3 categories: attendance, behavior, and course performance tell us if a student's going to drop out of school or not. And on course performance, the real indicator there is 2 or more classes failing is an indicator of being an at-risk student. So I've had some questions before about why are we only reporting on 2 or more Fs? Students do fail classes. It's the 2 or more Fs that catch our attention, and that teams come around individual students to problem solve. How can we support that student? But on the bigger picture, I think Robert's going to share with you some of the things that admin do with the data with their teachers once they get it.
Thanks for a few minutes to talk with you about grade level data. I'll say at South, our focus early in the year had to do a lot with attendance and trying to get students to be at school, knowing that if students are there regularly, you have a chance to reach them and attend to their needs, and also looking at behaviors that if they're not successful being in the classroom because of behavior and they're being removed, then how can we be teaching them? So that was our focus. A big focus of mine in the first quarter with teachers is let's get our students there and let's look at behaviors. And a lot of our data work revolved around looking at those 2 pieces. So on February 17th, one of the days that you've asked about, well, how do we use those days for professional development for our staff? We took a chance to celebrate some of the growth we've seen. So like in our iReady and our reading inventory data, we were able to celebrate some growth there that we've talked about already a little bit. Some of our attendance data for South looked pretty good, so we were able to celebrate some stuff there. But one of the data points that was concerning that we brought forward for our teachers is our quarter grades weren't where we want them to be. And so part of that day, we gave them a chance to look at individually their own grade data. We didn't put out, how each individual teacher did, and put that on blast for the whole staff to look at, but just looked at, here's your grade data, but then we also give them a chance to look at their department data. So if I'm a math teacher in the 6th grade, how does my pass-fail rate compare to other teachers just in my department? So I could at least get that as a comparison, and then that, I think, helped prompt some conversations after the 17th. We had a few teachers, I think, realized their pass-fail rate individually they were struggling with, so it prompted some good conversations about what could they be doing in their classroom to help students be more successful, whether that's reaching out to parents more regularly, looking a little bit more closely at individual students. So the other night I was at the basketball game, and it was a close, intense game, so I was really into that, and I got a teacher calling me at 7 o'clock or 6:30 on a Friday evening, and so this is not a teacher that normally calls me. I was, oh, what's going on? What's the emergency? And I pick up, and she was one that had felt badly about her grades and was calling to say, look at how good my test results are, and this one kid that was here went to here. So it ended up being a very welcome conversation at that, but getting that data in front of teachers on the 17th has allowed them to start reflecting some on their own practices and then start to celebrate the growth that they're seeing. So as a school, we've shifted our focus a little bit away from just attendance and behaviors as being two of the things that we're focusing on. And we're looking more at that, number of students that have 2 or more Fs. Tomorrow, teachers will be meeting in grade level teams to look at 6th grade data, 7th grade data, 8th grade data, and make sure they're aware of who are the students on the list of kids that have multiple Fs that you have. And so one, be aware that they have multiple Fs, and then have a chance to have a conversation about if they have 2 Fs or 3 Fs, they're obviously having success in some places, a chance to talk with teachers, what's going well for you, what can I maybe change in my own classroom. So that's something we'll be doing tomorrow. And then one more time before the end of the quarter, we'll take one more look and try to do one more quick cleanup to try to help students get across the goal in terms of reducing the number of Fs that they have. And then one thing that I've been very gracious, Tricia has started South. We have tutoring 4 days a week after school now for our struggling math students. And so for an hour every day, we have 15 to 20 students that are taking advantage of that. As parents become aware of it, they're eager to get their children signed up for it. So we're recruiting some of our Algebra 1 and geometry students at the school that are pretty proficient in math to say, hey, a lot of them are also in like leadership programs. So here's a chance to maybe get some community service hours and come help tutor and help some of their classmates in those classes. So that's kind of what we're doing in the South, to see if we can take some data that didn't feel good at the quarter and can we turn it around and see improvement over the next 2 quarters.
Questions? Track major disciplinary data. Danny.
Hey, we do a good job of that. So like to say our numbers have gone down since COVID, but that would not be accurate. So apparently the more the kids are on campus, the more misbehavior takes place. But I do in all seriousness want to say, yeah, we are a very safe school district. And we don't have those things where we have fights daily, where administrators are breaking up fights on a regular basis and that kind of stuff. 98.75% of our secondary kids know me as Mrs. Cantola's husband. They don't know that I'm the expulsion service officer because they've never seen me. And so that's a good thing. 99.1% of our kids have never seen me because they've had drugs, and they would have seen me if they had drugs, because all kids that have drugs get to see me. So we are very safe, and that 98 to 99% of our kids are really, really well behaved. And so I like that. We have kind of a 3-pronged discipline approach. First approach is we do the best we can to set kids up for success to begin with. I think you heard some of the administrators talking about the things that they share with the kids at the beginning of the school year, how we expect them to behave. And we try to do drug prevention. We try to do tobacco prevention. We work with Josephine County. We have a drug prevention person who helps work with our students and that kind of stuff. We try to make relationships with kids. We believe that if we have strong relationships with kids, our kids do much better and they behave well for us. So we work really hard to do that. But we also hold kids accountable. We are still one of the districts that will, if you bring drugs to campus or if you're under the influence of drugs on campus, we will take you through the expulsion process. So we do hold kids highly accountable. Having said that, we also are very supportive of kids. A lot of credit to Keith Jarslow and the school board for allowing us to do a lot of restorative stuff where we're doing supports for kids when they do mess up. Because even if they're 15, they're still kids, and we try to do supports around them. Susan has an OSAS thing. I don't know what the heck that is. My grandma had a SAS thing. And we've changed SAS apparently to disrespect and defiance. So at the elementary grades, that's what you'll see. Most of our behaviors are disrespect and defiance. As they get older, ironically, that kind of stays in place. We just don't see it as frequently. The one thing that I would say that we would want to work on expulsion wise and discipline wise is we do have, as of now, about 23 freshman students who have been in trouble for marijuana use. And so we know, and that's just that one grade level. And that's the bulk of our marijuana use across the district. So we know that we need to work on some more preventative measures and better upfront education about marijuana and drugs as they enter our high school system. So, any questions? You guys see me every month, so any questions about the discipline, David?
So nationally, there have been problems with minorities and at-risk populations being more apt to be heavily disciplined than our majority kind of students. Do we have that problem?
So we did a data walk in the Commons back in November where we looked at our discipline, and it was broken down by, so let's say we have 18% of our students are Hispanic, Latinx students. We would expect, if we were being consistent, that about 18% of our discipline issues would be the Latinx or Hispanic students. And we were almost right on track with where our percentages were with the percentages of discipline issues. Students that get highest discipline issues are our white male students. So we don't have, at least right now, those discrepancies in by race, by gender, by those types of things.
And do you think the freshman marijuana use is a direct result of the legalization of marijuana and the relaxation of standards in homes in our county?
I think, I don't know about
I give
homes.
a thumbs up in the back.
You know, when we do the hearings, families have been very supportive. We've had very few that come in and say, why are you disciplining my kid for this? I mean, they've been very supportive of disciplinary measures and stuff like that from the home, but it is very accessible. It's accessible because we grow it proficiently in Josephine County. We have for years. Now that it's legal, it's much easier for students to go get access to it. So, and it's become, Debbie, the number of forms that it comes in now. You know, it used to be joints, it used to be, those types of things. Now it's edibles, it's oils, it's vape. It's just more accessible.
Tim, I have to take off. We got the swim banquet and my kids are there, but if we're still going till 8, I will come back, but I apologize, I'm gonna have to step away.
I won't take it personally, Scott.
I was just waiting for you to start.
You were just waiting for me.
I just made up this.
Steve was right. Steve was right. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations and, I didn't want to believe him, but.
Well, I've sent Tim an email about you anyway. That's why I'm coming back after.
We'll talk about that later. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the elementary intervention portion, and I was pretty excited when I got chosen to do this because I've been here 12 years, and when I first started, just a real quick history, it was dealing with the interventions behaviorally. It was me and the office manager, and we were able to do it. That's back when Susan was in the building with me. Well, then we saw this giant change in behavior. And one thing that I want to say thank you to the district I wish Scott wouldn't have left, but talking about what you guys can do. What you did was you gave us the support we needed. And we have systems like RTII, you've heard that, response to instruction and intervention. Well, we have that system in place, and all we did was take that system and apply it to behavior. And so what you guys have helped us create is a system that's much more proactive instead of reactive. Okay, and once we can become proactive, we can get in there and make a difference. Okay, and we have seen a change in our behavior rate at Parkside for sure, and because we went back and looked at it, and that's due to, number one, I believe, is our behavior intervention specialist, so BIS, we call them. And it's a person kind of like what Marcy was, right? She's hired to just to drill down and work specifically on curriculum. Well, that's what the BIS or behavior intervention specialist is designed to do. They're a person that's an expert in the area of behavior, and they come alongside of teachers and they're like, okay, you got little Tim here and he's constantly off task. Give me, I know these 1,000 things. What's one thing that we need him to do, right? And so we build a system of supports. We got check in, check out. It's the same thing we're doing, whether it's a reading intervention or math intervention, but it's just focused on one thing. And then once he makes it, we celebrate. And that could be the first time that Tim has ever had anybody say, good job. Because Tim's the kind of kid that's running around, always, in trouble, right? And so, but that's what this has allowed us to do, along with a place to do it. We call it Camp Calm and Mindful Place, but the other place is called a Learning Center. It's a place where kids can come. It's not in trouble. It's take a break. It's to check in, check out. It's to do all those supports, kind of like the Title I room is for academics. So that's what we've been able to create at the elementary school. And we've seen a great change. I know Jake would echo this, but that's the best part about this that we've seen. We can talk about, we have our curriculum. It's our second steps. We have other interventions that we do. We have stepping stones. Once kids get to a certain rate, we're like, okay, they need more intensive, so they can go into the stepping stones program. Options is a big partner with us, and that's huge. We have YP1 meetings where we get everybody together and really try to support these kids. And that's what we've been doing at the elementary, and it's pretty exciting work that we've been doing over the last, 6 or 7 years now. So questions on that?
What's YP1?
It's a Youth Priority 1 meeting. It's where we have a student that's usually supported heavily, and they're still not responding to the interventions. And so we get everybody together, whether they're in a therapy, whether it's a doctor, whether it's their foster care. And we get everybody together in a meeting. We say, all right, what are we going to do to support this child, or more likely this family, to help them so they don't end up like with those guys not passing, right? We've got to get them stable to where they can settle, and then we can attend to their educational needs. But we know that if a kid's running around the classroom tearing things up, there's no way we can teach them to do read. We can't teach them to read or do math.
Can you give an example, like when you say support the family, when you guys have done for families?
Oh, it's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's homelessness, sometimes it's getting kids to school. I mean, we do whatever it takes, whether it's getting them, maybe they don't have the ability to go through the process of getting their child connected to options. So we've taken the paper, we've delivered it. We said, hey, come on in. And some of our parents, we fill it out with them. We've gone down. I've gone down with parents and we've gone through the intake with them. We sit down and say, yeah, okay, here's what's going to happen. Again, they don't know where their next meal is, let alone I've got to fill out this giant thing and I got to do all these other pieces. So it's really about supporting them to get them through those hoops so they can get access to what they need. So those are just some of the things that we've all done.
Parent education,
Yes.
therapy, family therapy. And
Right.
it's not the YP1 or the Youth Priority 1 is an options
Right.
function that they partner with us. So
Okay.
we
Right.
reach out to them. We have the student who either is in a major crisis or like Rob said, we've kind of run out of our bag of tricks.
Right.
And we're still not making progress. So we might have a YP1. There's school people there, but then there's therapists, doctors, all care is often there. So that there's for that insurance financial
Yeah.
piece, they're all at the table at the same time.
So we could expedite some of the decisions. So it's like, no, we need to make this happen. We're gonna make it happen. Yes. So it just really expedites.
And that's
some
not
of
just
the
an
pieces.
elementary.
That's all the way across?
service,
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's what we're doing there.
To provide a different level of resources
Right.
for students based on their needs. So that's what's.
And do you guys talk to each other? So like when you have a fifth grader going up to middle school, do you guys connect?
We
with
have
the principals
transition
and
meetings.
everybody?
Yes, we do. And we have really great systems in place where they can go back and look at it, but yeah, we have those transitional meetings too.
Say, here comes little Tim.
There he comes, little Tim.
We tried.
Do I ever talk to you and give you kids' names?
And we still talk about.
Yes, we talk about little Tim, yes, we do. All right,
Yes,
Tommy,
there
you're
you
up.
go, Ryan.
There was a question about the number of marijuana cases with the freshmen at Grants Pass High School. Remember that those kids also had less time in middle school, regular middle school, than they did in middle school. And so a lot of people talk about the transition from 8th to 9th grade being a challenging one. Well, try going from 5th to 6th grade and having much of that time spent online. Those are really, really important years. We're seeing that academics recover more quickly than we're seeing the social, emotional, developmental. So I think both North and South, Robert would agree to this. The group of kids that moved from 8th grade to 9th grade were highly, highly impacted. And if you look at what we have this year for the number of marijuana cases, it's, you add them together and it's not even a quarter of the 32 that you saw at the high school there. So Annie mentioned that defiance and disrespect were the top two, and that continues on through the secondary level. And really that's because that's what you see in the classroom. A lot of the other things are all over the place, but most things that happen in the classroom are kind of lumped into these categories. You don't see kids being expelled at either one of the two middle schools at a high rate, nor do you see really a common theme. And so there's not what we would say is a problem that's leading to expulsions. Defiance and disrespect usually is about unmet needs, and that's a communication tool by the kid. I'm struggling. I don't always have the ability to tell you, walk up and say, Mr. Thompson, I'm struggling today. They usually demonstrate those in other ways, and that comes out as behavior, noncompliance, disrespect, and defiance. So we started the year by looking at a number of things to try to address those. And so we looked at a revamped discipline guide for our teachers. We went over the teacher expectations, what's to be handled in the classroom, when does that become an office-related request for student support. We have provided and went through scripts for teachers, helping them have conversations with both students and with parents. It's really important for our teachers to be talking to the parents rather than acting as the middleman all the time, when it just takes a long time. And neither one of the parent nor the administrator or the counselor are sitting in the classroom. So it's good to get parents and teachers talking. We focused on routines from the onset. We know that when there's consistency and expectations and routines are taught, that sets kids up for success. Really focused on relationships as well. One of the key focus points for us this year was moments of genuine connection. So how do we start establishing relationships from the onset with kids? So it's easier to have those more difficult conversations when you know something about the kid or the kid feels that you care about them. We have a school-wide advisory program at North that happens every Wednesday. And so there are a lot of things that happen there, with a big focus on our 6 Ps, which is being prompt, prepared, polite, positive mental attitude, participate, and produce. And those are reoccurring themes throughout the school year. We presented Selena on the discovery program. Kim runs her discovery program over at South. And so as kids, not all kids turn behavior around by giving them attention. And most you will find that attention, the suspension means absolutely nothing and does not change behavior. Yes, there's the accountability piece, but what are we doing to teach them the skills to not do those same types of things? So discovery program is one of those. We have more teachers that are incorporating SEL activities into the classroom. So circle time and identifying emotions. So teachers have an understanding of where kids are coming into the classroom. It's even more important at the middle school level because you only get them for 45 minutes and they're transitioning to 7 different teachers throughout the day. So they may have been in a great spot first period, but maybe not so much after lunch because something happened at lunch and now they're triggered in the afternoon. We also run skill groups to address specific needs for kids. We have options to be able to come to the counseling center when students need support. We also have our learning center, which was mentioned by Rob earlier, that has a staff member that runs that classroom in addition to an option skills trainer that's there 5 days a week to be able to support kids. We also have restorative practices in the school. All those things take time. It's easy to stamp it attention and send the kid on their way, but that doesn't change behavior. And being able to really find the root of the issues and to have restorative practices takes a lot of time. And so it does take up a lot of our assistant principal's time. There are times when kids need to go elsewhere. That typically means GPAS. And so we're really excited about something that we've worked on recently, that if a kid gets expelled or needs to go somewhere else, that it's not necessarily for a predetermined period of time. We found that that predetermined period of time does not usually lead to change behaviors or incentive to come back. Bad, good, I'm coming back at the end of the quarter. The new system says that we're going to ask for 20 days or we're going to ask for 30 days where you're going to go to GPAS and you're going to basically have it be told to you whether you had a passing day or not. Were you showing up? Did you meet expectations? Did you show progress towards your classwork? And so if you're going to be over there for 20 days and you have 20 days in a row, you're going to be back pretty darn quickly. Some it has worked really, really well and they've worked their way to get back, and others it takes a little bit longer. We do not ask for consecutive days. That would be really challenging to have one slip up and then have to start all over. Once they meet that time, we have something called bridging the gap, and that's how they earn their way back in. And Barrett's been a big part of that, helping design that program, but also to meet with the kids when they come back. They put a little presentation together, and I'll just quickly go over some of the things that they discussed there. The reason that they earned their way over to GPAS, who was affected. So oftentimes you're going to hear themselves, you're going to hear family, you're going to hear students, you're going to hear staff members. How can I make amends? What future decisions can I make that will keep me from repeating? Who did you make a connection with at GPAS? That's important for us to learn because we might be able to figure out how to utilize that when we come back. Who did you connect with best before you left the middle school? So we can work on some reconnections there. And then 3 goals to work on when I return to North. And so it's nice to see the kids doing the work, not all the adults doing the work to get the kid back. So a lot of that were things that we're working on there, but we also are focusing really hard on, we're honoring more kids for good attendance for Student of the Month, and we're up in that. What do we have coming Wednesday? How many kids do we have for Student of the Month? 20 kids coming in. So just trying to up the positive connections with kids, because as all of us have mentioned, when they are feeling connected and have positive relationships, attendance is going to go up. If attendance goes up, more than likely grades are going to be going up. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have spent a lot of time in the past on ACEs. Is that still a part of our story, and is it helping? I see nodding heads.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it gives them a good background of what trauma impacted students are coming into the classrooms, and hopefully a little bit of their own background, and hopefully create some empathy for the students that they're working with. And so we've continued to do that every year as part
So
of our
we're still
news.
having educational programs for not only teachers, but parents and kids all.
We haven't had one for,
Kids.
we haven't had one for parents this
This year.
This year.
Most of
But
it's been
staff, it's a
staff.
part of our onboarding with new staff.
There's some training for that.
I think what you saw, Debbie, was we are
Yeah.
aware of acute childhood instances with students and families, and we're past that point now, and now we're delving into support and resources and how to help those children and those families in a much deeper level. It's almost like we didn't know what we didn't know, but now that we know that, we're at a much deeper level, assuming that all students and families are coming in with ACEs, and how are we gonna support and change what we do? And so I think we've made a huge strides in progress.
Thank you. Thank you all.
It's a little humbling. It's humbling hearing all the
We
all their
shared,
tries.
we shared graduation data with you last board meeting. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have Vanessa, Ryan, Keith, and Mike discuss how we are helping our students to achieve their graduation. So Vanessa?
So students, we're going to focus on our secondary students, but students can qualify for an individual education plan if they're in kindergarten, which is pretty rare, but it does happen. Our students in secondary schools are connected with a case manager. That case manager knows that kid by name, knows what that kid needs, and knows their progress toward graduation based on their great knowledge of their graduation requirements for students. The nice thing about this extra layer of support for students with experiencing disabilities is that case manager also makes a connection with the family as much as possible, because we know more caring adults in the system for the student, the more likely they are to do well. We this year added an additional resource teacher that's been housed, that sounds bad. That's working out at Gladiola with GP Flex, Gladiola, and our GPAS students. And we recognized there was a need for our students experiencing disabilities to have more support in our alternative education programs. And so this is our first year, and I think it's going really well, making great connections with families and with kids. In addition, specific to students with IEPs, they have, especially juniors and seniors, they go through something called transition planning as a part.
Anyone else is interested?
He has an IEP.
He has an IEP, yeah. They go through a transition planning, and that transition planning is really focused on post-secondary goals for the student in education, training, independent living, connecting with other agencies, employment, and just having that specific time to focus on what is the student's goals and how are we as a school system going to move those goals, help that student move through those goals to get where they want to be when they cross that graduation stage. We have the opportunity for students who graduate on modified or alternative certificates or certificates of attendance to stay with us through their 21st year of school. So we can give them that extra time they need to hopefully get their modified diploma or other skills, life skills that they're going to need moving out. We also have amazing educational assistants that we push out into general education classrooms to give them support in their core classes and to create safe spaces for them to make sure their services, accommodations, modifications, and any other kind of supports that they might need or entitled to are provided to them throughout the day. So there's a lot of extra layers for special education. But that's just a little snapshot of the little extra support that students on IEPs get for their education.
We got next on the docket.
Questions for me? Yeah.
Sorry to dominate the
No,
question.
you're doing fine. They're good questions.
But so with Three Rivers going to 4 days a week, we've gotten an extra 150
Not all from Three Rivers, but yes, we have extra.
students. Has that impacted our system? Are we coping and dealing and?
It has K-12, it has impacted our system, and we've been looking really closely at caseload numbers, especially in our elementary school. That's where we saw the biggest growth in students with IEPs. And especially a couple of schools were more impacted than others. Parkside and Lincoln and Riverside have been our most impacted schools with additional students coming in with IEPs. So we look at levels of support needed. What other additional staff do we need to put in the classrooms to push out into gen ed classrooms to support them in there? So yes, it has been an impact. It's definitely the extra numbers. I think we're about 25-ish students at Gladiola and GP Flex that are on IEPs.
Yeah, and then support for GPAS, a lot of
Yeah.
students with expulsions tend to have IEPs also, so there's additional supports for that to get them back into the mainstream community fast.
Yes, so yes. And what we just have to do is look at the kids, what are their needs and what do we need to add for supports for them? So it's definitely been an impact.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's been a huge change. We had 0 students first quarter fail 2 or more classes that had IEPs. Should be great. Flexes doing the programs really well, gets some kids really well. So
yep,
it's been a huge one. Thank you for that additional resource for sure.
So I had to write mine down like Jake Musser, so I don't ramble on random stories for 10 minutes. So
Good job.
thank you, appreciate that. So we've had a big year at Gladiola. Last year was a big year, but there's a lot of wonderful things to share in the realm of graduation. Mr. Jaroslaw and I have been working really hard, and the crews at GPHS in North and South, working on GPAS and Bridges PM, having them be more focused and more supportive of stabilizing students, getting them back on track, more towards the center of our learning community. There are fewer dropouts at this point in the year versus this point last year, so we're able to keep more kids engaged. And we've had 12 transitions from GPAS and the Bridges PM program to Gladiola this year thus far. So kids that are expelled, getting them back into faster credit earning opportunities faster. And we're planning on bringing 4 over from GPAS Q4. 2 or 3 of them are going to be 9th graders. So trying to get 9th graders back moving forward quicker also. Our systems are better able to support shorter stays in the traditional expulsion programs and a more effective return, less recidivism back to expulsions in GPAS and Bridges PM, getting them back in school earning credits and moving towards a positive, productive future. With that, the majority of students placed in our GPAS and Bridges PM programs this year are 9th graders. Currently 16 of 28 students, or 57%, enrolled in these programs are 9th graders on expulsions. Seeing the 30,000-foot view on all the expulsions was interesting. Doing some quick math, 72.5% of our total district expulsions this year were for marijuana, which is pretty interesting. That is an incredibly high number. So 57% are 9th graders. We've been working with our superintendent and directors for a whole system plan to support increasing our 9th grade success. We're working on pushing Gladiola Way, which is the discovery program, into these programs this year and next year. So it's not just Edgenuity, there's more social emotional supports and connections going on. These discussions are ongoing, and the team collaboration on that is really healthy, and it's going to make progress, which would be great. As far as progress at Gladiola specifically, in previous years, an average year for Gladiola was 25 graduates. We may have that just in Q3 this year, which is pretty killer. We had 26 graduates up through first semester. We're not just graduating students, which was last year. We graduated a lot of students, but we were moving so quick, we didn't have the systems of support for next steps. And so Tim has given us a very clear directive this year. It's not just about graduating the kids, it's about setting them up for next steps also. So we've done a lot of work in that realm this year. Tim's been great. He came in with a ton of experience with that and has been able to share a lot of ideas there and partnerships. We've been working closely with Project U Plus.
That's because I'm a troublemaker.
That's why we get along.
That's how I got that experience.
It takes a troublemaker to know a troublemaker. That's how it goes. Kids are like, how'd you know I was going to do that? Because I did that when I was 16. And I did it then. So anyway, I'm reformed now. But we work with our community partners. Project Youth Plus has been a huge help. Thank you. Drew, our Project Youth Plus person, is amazing. 71.5 and WorkSource to have much higher next step connections. Again, this is a primary directive. The majority of our current grads have already connected with next steps, certified nursing assistant programs, phlebotomist programs, truck driving programs, welding programs, beautician schools, RCC classes. We had a recent acceptance to a prestigious acting school in Los Angeles, which doesn't happen in Gladiola very often. We're pretty excited about that. And a lot of other career-related programs. Also, all of our graduates now work with WorkSource the quarter before they graduate to get into their systems, because there's a lot of resources and support there for our grads. So it's been a lot of push, a lot of support by a lot of community members. It's been a lot of progress. Our kids see a brighter light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is bright. They're more likely to show up and walk the path we're paving for them. So shout out to all of our community partners and the support in this room for that. We've made a new partnership with RCC also, called the RCC Concurrent Enrollment Program, which allows our GED students, so not just our grads. Our GED students, there's a grant through RCC where they can take up to 9 free credit hours of classes at RCC with 3 hours of free tutoring included each week with the mentor to help their engagement and ongoing success. So we've already got kids participating in that program that got started this year. So not just our grads, but our GED students connecting with next steps in employment and training, which is pretty exciting. By the way, our GED program is about to pass last year's record number of completers, and it's still only early March. So should have a record number of grads this year and GED completers. As with other partnerships, Gary Miller and Jalen Dinkins have been working on strengthening our relationship with OSU and the Jefferson County Food Bank. Our connections with these two partners come with up to $40,000 of supplies, materials, and labor for our garden needs. The goal there is to grow the food, teach kids how to grow the food. And then in our cooking classes, we call it Adventures with Food, and we have some other food classes, learn how to cook this healthy food. A lot of families experiencing poverty have difficulty accessing healthy food options. So teaching our families how to grow healthy food and then how to cook it, I think is going to pay dividends throughout their whole life in our community. So that's been a lot of work and that's been really cool. So we use our Gladiola grown veggies and cook some healthy foods. And they just, homegrown foods taste better. They're sweet. They taste better. Tomatoes are sweeter. I know, I'm moving quick. I'm not gonna read the whole backside. This is the last part. On that note, our Gladiola team ran some, this is the icing on the cake. I'm getting there. Sorry, that's why I had to write it down. So on that note, you said light entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
We haven't had anybody dance yet.
Nobody dance?
Who's that? We're
I'm
getting
not
pretty close
gonna
to
do
the
a
end of the
two-step.
list.
Now you're getting me off track.
Come on.
I can do the sprinkler. Anyways, our Gladiola team ran some data to analyze the effectiveness of our Gladiola weight program. What we found was pretty astonishing. You saw the 28% year-over-year reduction in chronic absenteeism. With a random sampling of 14 students, the average student in that group has earned 2.35 credits per quarter with us and is already a nearly 10% overall improvement in annual attendance. But the biggest data point was our 4-year completer rate. Our bread and butter is our 5-year rate. We don't get students till typically they mathematically can't finish in 4 years. But comparing some orange to orange programs, this is an ascending order. SOSAR, our Cousins in Three Rivers, their all dead program has a 40% 4-year completer rate. South Valley Academy in Red River, 44%. Phoenix School in Roseburg, 45%. Ursula and Eagle Point, 54%. Falcon Heights and Cave Falls, 55%. Gladiola Lesher at 65%, 25% 4-year completer rate higher than Three Rivers, which is amazing. And we're excited this year we'll get our 5-year completer date. So we're excited for that. And now I'm done.
Well, I want to say
I wanna
something. I met
clap
with,
and be
I
excited. It
remember
feels
meeting
good.
with you when you started the position there and you have
Three
all
Rivers.
these goals and dreams and you are achieving them. I am so impressed.
Yeah, usually that's the key. It's not just have the goals and dreams, but then try to do them. So we've still got a lot of room to grow. And it's a lot of hardworking people there and the people in this room and our community partners, but it's coming together next.
So they have a great leader.
Yes.
It's just not, yeah, it's a good team. So that's it. Just get out of the way.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Keep it up.
Can,
Gladiola Way, going in other places.
Well, it is, it's
Exciting.
Discovery Program. We just renamed it. So the Discovery Programs in north and south.
I'll talk to you later.
So
You talked too fast. I just said, oh, he's better typed. I'll just have him send it.
I'll admit it's curse words.
Keith, you got 14 seconds.
So we got a lot of exciting things going on at GP. I hate the fact that I need these things, by the way. Got a lot of exciting things going on at GP Flex right now. One thing to talk about though, just to piggyback on what Tommy was saying with GPAS and the middle school is I see that as a freshman support because hopefully as those middle schoolers are learning the discovery program and the day, how many days and successful days and all those kinds of things, learning the skills that they need, they're not going to step on all those same rakes when they're freshmen and they'll have more success as freshmen. Hopefully they get all this worked out. So really excited about that.
But they're going to use those rakes for the gardening class. Oh,
Well,
step on.
yeah. So that, it's good. Yeah, it's a good process. And just one of the things, Ethan Lackey, who's the teacher at GPAS, said that with the implementation of that Successful Days program, that the turnaround with the behavior of the kids and the attitude of the kids, like overnight, was dramatically better. So that's super exciting. Regarding GP Flex and how we're supporting our kids. So just one super exciting thing, when we were in August, our enrollment was in the mid-60s. We're at 119 as of this morning, and I've got more intakes coming up over the next few days and week. So our enrollment continues to go up. I meet with every single parent and student that applies to GP Flex. And in some cases, we determine that maybe GP Flex isn't the best fit. Maybe Gladiola is a better fit. Maybe GED is a better fit. Maybe staying at the high school or the middle school or what have you. But we also come up with a personal plan for each kid to help them to be successful and steer them towards where they want to be. One of the things that we've found is GP Flex has been a really good bridge for a lot of kids. We've got kids that are, bridging to Gladiola or bridging to GED. We're helping them work on their skills. We had one of our students who was looking at a 5th year as a senior. We helped her build up her skills. She ended up passing the STAR test, and she's passed 3 GED tests already. So instead of a 5th year now, she's just about done and had a lot more success. We actually had 2 kids finish today, graduate today. We had 1 kid finish all her coursework, 1 kid finished all of her personalized learning. So we've got 8 graduates now as of this year so far, which is super exciting. We have about 30%, almost 30% of our kids have a hybrid schedule. So they're taking a couple classes at North or South or the high school, and then say taking some classes with us. So we've got a lot of kids that are taking advantage of that. We've had just a couple of student stories that are exciting, I think. We have 1 kid that's spending Q3 at a hockey camp in Washington, and then he's coming back Q4. We have another kid that is doing golf all over the country and then taking advantage until Flex gives him the flexibility to do that. When I met him, it was actually kind of funny because I asked him what his handicap was. He's a +1, which is like amazing. And the higher the number, the worse your handicap. So he asked me what mine was. I told him I'm a 14. He's like, "Oh, that's pretty good." I'm like, "No, don't tell me that. It's not."
Okay, buddy.
I'm really excited about our discipline data at GP Flex. We haven't had any expulsions this year. The girls are way down, so that's really good.
Marijuana use.
It's all one room schoolhouse, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes,
It's
totally.
easier to- Yeah.
No, it's been super good. I meet with all of our teachers every single week. We talk about students that need additional attention, students that need additional help, whether I'm contacting them, they're contacting them. I go through, over the course of the week, I go through every single student at GP Flex, their progress, how they're doing, what kind of, are they behind, are they not? And then either me or the teacher will contact them on a weekly basis. So we're having lots and lots of contact with our students and keeping track of them. We've had a few students that have gone back to the high school, a few students that have gone, to Gladiola or GP or GED, as I said. So overall, very exciting stuff. And so that's it, unless we have questions.
So do you see an upward trend in enrollment then? You're getting a few every day. What are your projections?
Well, I mean, I think I'd love to see us at 160, 170 by next year, and then probably 225, 250 after that. That would be the goal. I think the new campus that you guys voted for, which I think is amazing, thank you for that, is going to be able to provide that much more support, especially for kids that are going to want to do that hybrid schedule where then they can work with us in the classroom, get help from teachers, and then go do the culinary class at the high school or go do welding or, the health science classes and that kind of thing. So I think that's going to help as our enrollment grows. If we're able to expand our staff, we can have more targeted assistance for different teacher or different students and grade levels. So overall, I think the trajectory that we're on, I mean, we've essentially doubled from where we were just in August. And so, if we can keep on that trajectory, I think we're got a very bright future.
Thank you.
Very quickly, Grants Pass High School. The 2 subcategories, I know Trish was very thorough in the district overview for grad rates a month ago. We were most proud of our Hispanic and Latino rate. We had 87.5% of our Hispanic and Latino students graduate in 4 years. And our male and female, that sounds like such a male female. Well, 5 years ago, 13%, our females graduated a 13% higher rate than our males. And this year we were within 1% of each other. So we were very happy about that. I had a focus on what Reaching Boys, Teaching Boys, a book that we read about 5 years ago. And I do think some of those efforts have paid off. Areas to improve, houseless population. We know that they are most vulnerable. And there's just so many factors that need to be worked on. And we want to work with our partners on serving our students better in that capacity. And then our English language learners. We are super happy with our Hispanic and Latino, but our English language learners specifically, sometimes they come into the classroom and I think people may think they're getting the supports they need because they have an ELL class to go to and they have a teacher they go to, but it's so much more than that. And it takes a lot of coordination and communication with family, with the ELL teacher and assistant, with classroom teachers times 6 others besides their ELL teacher, their counselor. It's very involved. And just because sometimes even some of our students who have completed the ELL program does not mean they still have all the language skills that someone who may have grown up speaking English their whole life. So those two would be areas that we want to continue to focus on to improve. And then lastly, just our 9th grade on track. We know that's a precursor to our graduation rate. Happy that the semester we were 3% higher this year than last year at this time. So we're happy for that. A real focus this year on teaching organizational skills in all of our classrooms. We've asked all our 9th grade teachers to focus on that. We've partnered with Project Youth Plus. You saw a presentation last month on. We have a student success center for our 9th graders, and we have a Project Youth Plus member that's a part of that team. And then lastly, we've started our 10th and 11th grade success teams too. So all of our staff are talking about kids, whether you teach 9th graders or sophomores and juniors, you're going to be talking about kids every month to 4 to 6 weeks and how they're progressing. That's it.
Questions? Okay, so this all leads to our integrated plan. And I'm gonna ask Trish to spend a few minutes just talking about that.
You're going to get a lot of information over if you come to the budget committee meeting tomorrow or next Tuesday's board meeting. But the thing I would tell you is that there will be a notice going out hopefully tomorrow. Tanya might know.
We're working on it.
Okay. We need to have public comment on our integrated plan, which encompasses the student investment account, SIA, high school success dollars, or Measure 98. There's a couple of other funds in that. Scott asked earlier, what can you do as a board to help support us, and how we are good stewards of the dollars provided to us is part of that integrated plan. We make a lot of investments that we're going to go over at those 2 meetings and welcome public comment on. Just really quick though, we get a lot of that input on what we spend our money on based on these data conversations, based on community input, listening to our student voices, our parents and our community telling us this is what we think we need. Our job is to kind of synthesize that down because we only have so many dollars and so many resources to expend. But the integrated plan is really meant to ask us, kind of going back to where we were on our strategic plan at the beginning, are we helping our students to learn? Are we giving them the best experience and being good stewards of those dollars and resources that we have as a district? So in the integrated plan presentations that you'll hear tomorrow and on Tuesday, you'll get a lot more detail about the processes we've been in and then how we're spending those dollars. So we'll save it till tomorrow night. We see some of you again.
Hopefully all of you. Okay.
Most of us.
So one of the things that was asked is what could the board do to support? I think it would be very helpful if the board were to continue these goals for next year. I think that that's important. I think that we need to have some time to really see what all this work is going to do in the long run. When we start changing goals, we will leave things behind that don't need to be left behind. So, so having said that, and a few board members short, so that's okay. Does the board have anything that they need the superintendent to improve? Love to hear feedback. We can talk about it now, or you can send me an email, or we can talk about it at another time when all the board is here, however that works for the board. Okay. And then eventually you're gonna have to do an evaluation of the superintendent and decide if he's coming back next year or not. So, as you heard, he's a troublemaker, so.
The goals change the super.
There you go. Goals change super, whatever the board needs. So, and with that, unless the board has any immediate feedback they want to give me on, well, let me say this, is the board okay with keeping these goals for next year
Yes.
as an overall district approach? Okay. Does the board have any areas they want me to improve that you'd like to share with me at this time?
Love to know.
Okay. You
But-
want to share with them that?
Well, no, I mean, overarching things, our teachers need support, more support.
Mhm.
I think that, attendance, we've been working on the disciplinary issues and getting them into the classroom. But really our kids, what we hear in the media, what we hear in the communities, our kids are suffering, but our teachers are suffering too. So if we could multiply the curriculum department, more support. And in the old fashioned way, for me, principals were teacher supports. They're not that anymore. You guys are more disciplinary supports, and so I think putting out fires, but getting more support for teachers would therefore give more support to the principals to be able to do. So, that's just. But, yeah.
And I can meet individually with board members too,
Mhm.
whatever the board is comfortable with.
Yeah, I do, for those of us that are left. In our packet here, there is kind of a, what I would like to use. We are only 7 months in, so officially, I think some of the OSBA tools that they have that we've used maybe in the past seem a little formal. I think we've had comprehensive information given to us tonight that is humbling to, we know you all do it, but sitting here in this room at these desks, we don't always hear how everything correlates. We get it every 3 months or in a report, but this is amazing. And I just thank you all for showing up every day, even when you feel as though you're drowning. So, but for Tim, it's a whole different story. So we have this, I just kind of made this at the very end. It was a separate piece of paper. And kind of just giving some overview instead of doing what seems to be a little more formal. Working on this and we can discuss how that is.
And my question, I realize I should know this by now, but I don't exactly have what we need to evaluate when.
Coming up quick, fill it out. We have till the 15th.
District requirements and goals. As far as when does this evaluation need to be done?
Mhm.
Isn't it like in March or
It's
something?
March
It is
15th.
March 15th.
Yes.
usually.
Yeah.
What's that?
March 15th.
March 15th.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, if you want, obviously we'll have time to send it out. I was expecting more of us to
Send
be
that
here and
out.
have more of a conversation and, yeah. And I'll email you.
Well, I really appreciate this meeting
Mhm.
and feel it was absolutely helpful and informative and valuable.
How was the format?
I really loved the format. I don't know about anybody else. I did.
No light show.
No lasers.
No dancing babies. That was all before your time.
Good thing.
So what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing this correctly, is we're gonna fill out that form and get the information back to Tanya or to you? Tanya.
Same.
Same, please, okay. And then you'll sit down with me and share what the feedback was from the whole board. Okay, that sounds good. And if you, in the course of filling that out, if there's things that you feel like I'm deficient in, I'd appreciate you
There's a
sharing.
spot for that.
There is, okay, great. And then as far as this format, you'd like to see this continued next year, all on the same page. These are the goals we're gonna have for next year. And we're going to continue to work to improve the overall district, this fundamental template, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And one
I'm
other
sure
piece,
others will have units.
I think OSBA, and I don't know if it's a state suggestion or a state mandate, to give some kind of raise or press release statement regarding our evaluation.
Yeah, we can talk about that. It's not mandated
Not a
or
requirement.
required through either, but we can if that's something that we feel like we want to do.
I think it's part of the transparency and communication that's valuable for our community.
Well, let's see what comes back first.
I'm giving you every opportunity to be transparent right here. So,
I've appreciated the job you've done. I've appreciated the job everybody in this room and who's left to be with their family and friends have done. It is a team effort and we are a great team. Go Cavemen.
they are really top shelf. Very fortunate.
No, it's just time.
Oh.
I'm out. If he's out, I'm out.
Okay, well, I
It's been a
look,
great year.
I look forward. I have a couple. All right,
I have everything I need. So.
and I. if we can send this up.
That's right, Daddy.
All right. Then we're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank
Go,
you,
run.
everybody.
Go.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
hints.
yeah, take it. I have money.
Oh.
Oh.
You gotta text Scott.